Madam Speaker, I will be sharing my time with member of Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna. Before I begin, I want to thank the people of Richmond Centre Marple for bestowing their trust in me and electing me as their Member of Parliament. I'm deeply honored by their confidence, and I'm committed to serving them faithfully, with their interests always my top priority. Every time I rise in this House, it's with their voices in mind. We are debating Bill C-8, the government's latest attempt at a cybersecurity framework. To understand Bill C-8, we must remember where it comes from. This is essentially the reintroduction of Bill C-26, which the government first brought forward in 2022. Conservatives supported the principle of Bill C-26, the idea that Canada needs stronger protections for critical cyber systems. But it also raised serious legitimate concerns about how the bill was drafted. We wanted that C-26 concentrated too much unchecked power in the hands of the ministers. We wanted that its secrecy provisions undermined transparency and accountability. We wanted that the cost of compliance would inevitably be passed down to ordinary Canadians through higher phone bills and banking fees. And we wanted that the legislation was focused on the wrong targets, that is, federally regulated banks, pipelines, and telecom companies, while leaving out the institutions Canadians actually see attacked most often: hospitals, municipalities, and schools. Those warnings were echoed not only by Conservatives, but also by industry leaders, civic liberty groups, and privacy experts. The Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security heard those criticisms over many months. And what happened? Bill C-26 stalled in committee. It never passed. It died on the order paper because it could not overcome its flaws. Now the government has come back with Bill C-8. And Madam Speaker, to be fair, there's been one improvement. The government removed the so-called secret evidence clause, the provision that would allow ministers to rely on confidential materials in court challenges without disclosure to affected parties. That was a step in the right direction. Conservatives acknowledge that change. But let us be clear, beyond that one tweak, almost everything else is the same. The sweeping ministerial powers are still there. The indefinite secrecy is still there. The lack of oversight is still there. The downloading of courses onto consumers is still there. And most importantly, the narrow scope of the bill, covering only federally regulated industries while excluding hospitals, municipalities, and schools, is still there. Madam Speaker, Canadians deserve better than a reheated version of a flawed bill.
That's right.
A single fix does not change the reality that this legislation fails its core purpose, which is protecting Canadians where they are most vulnerable. Let me bring this closer to home. Cyber attacks are not theoretical. They are not distant. They are happening right now, and they are hitting our communities hard. In British Columbia, the basic government itself was breached. State-sponsored actors infiltrated its email system and accessed sensitive personal information. Vancouver Coastal Health, which cares for more than 1 million people, was hit with ransomware that disrupted hospital operations and delayed patient services. The city of Richmond, my own city, faced cyber intrusions and compromised email systems, threatening the delivery of municipal services. Even the Richmond School Board fell victim to a cyber attack that exposed private and financial information of teachers, staff, and families. Madam Speaker, these are not hypotheticals. They are real attacks on real people. And not one of these institutions could be protected under Bill C-8. That is the first fatal flaw. Bill C-8 offers Canadians a false promise of security. The government says it's protecting vital systems, but the very systems Canadians interact with every day, their hospitals, their local governments, their children's schools, are left outside the law's reach. A cybersecurity bill that doesn't secure hospitals, cities, or schools is like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. The second flaw is secrecy. Just like Bill C-26, Bill C-8 grants sweeping powers to ministers and to cabinet. With the stroke of a pen, the government can order a company to block a service, rip out equipment, or suspend operations. And those orders can be kept secret indefinitely. Companies may even be gagged from telling Canadians that their government has interfered with their networks. Operational secrecy during an active attack may be justified, but secrecy without time limits or oversight is simply unacceptable. That's not transparency, that's not accountability, and it does not inspire public trust. Canadians deserve to know, after the fact, what actions were taken in their name. The first flaw is cost. Bill C-8, like C-26 before it, makes it explicit. There will be no compensation for companies forced to comply with government orders. If a telecom company is told to strip out hundreds or millions of dollars of equipment, Ottawa will not pay a cent. Those costs will land on Canadians, who will see higher phone bills, higher bank fees, and slower upgrades to essential services. National security should be funded fairly, not through hidden taxes on consumers. The fourth flaw is scope. The government may argue that by forcing telecom companies to strengthen their networks, hospitals and schools that rely on those networks are indirectly protected. But that argument does not hold up. The attacks we have seen in British Columbia did not come through telecom backbones. They came through local servers, outdated softwares, and ransomware emails. Protecting the pipes does not protect the people. The government may also claim that this bill helps stop foreign interference. But again, this is spin, not substance. Bill C deals with cyber intrusions into networks. It does nothing to address the broader reality of foreign interference. Disinformation campaigns, covert political financing, intimidation of diaspora communities, or manipulation of democratic institutions. Suggesting that Bill C-8 will stop foreign interference misleads Canadians and risks creating dangerous complacency. So what do Canadians really get with Bill C-8? They get a law that still misses the real victims of cyber attacks. They get a law that still hides decisions from public view. They get a law that still sticks consumers with the bill. And they get a law that still does almost nothing to address the broader threat of foreign interference. Madam Speaker, that's not cyber resilience. That's not leadership. That is smoke and mirrors. Conservatives believe in stronger cybersecurity, but we believe in getting it right. What Canada needs is legislation that actually works with provinces and municipalities to protect the services Canadians rely on most: hospitals, schools, and local governments. We need legislation that provides oversight and accountability, not blank checks for secrecy. We need legislation that shares the cost of national security fairly instead of forcing families to pay through hidden charities. And we need legislation that integrates.
The honourable member is out of time. Questions and comments. The honourable parliamentary secretary to the government has leader.
Madam Speaker, the member brought up the issue of foreign interference, and I just can't resist in terms of we all know that when it comes to foreign interference, that the leader of the Conservative Party has yet to actually get his security clearance. And if the Conservative Party wanted any credibility whatsoever dealing with the issue of foreign interference, would he not agree, at the very least, their own political leader, the leader of the Conservative Party, should at least get a security clearance done?
That's right.
Honourable member for Richmond Centre Marple.
Madam Speaker, we are debating on the legislation being brought by the government to try to improve cybersecurity. But what I see is that a law that is going to be as problematic as it was in the Bill C-26. It has made one little improvement, but most of the content of Bill C-26 remain the same. So how could the government say that this is going to protect Canadians more? And furthermore, this bill might address improving the pipe, but it doesn't guarantee or secures what goes through the pipe. So this is not real cyber resilience. It is smoke and mirrors.
Good job.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I commend my colleague on his speech. We have the privilege of sitting together on the Public Safety Committee. I congratulate him on his speech once again. Together in committee, we will study the bill, and I think we can all agree in this place that C8 is an important bill, which we must adopt after committee work. I don't think anyone here in this House wants to slow this down, but we do want to ensure that privacy is protected. We do also need to protect ourselves against federal interference in provincial jurisdiction. Is the colleague interested in hearing more about this specific aspect of the bill that the Bloc Québécois cares deeply about amending?
Madam Speaker, definitely. As it has been debated or discussed in the last Committee on Public Safety and National Security, we listened and we got presentations from many witnesses telling us that the problems with C-26. And I think if this bill goes to committee again, we would like to hear more from experts, from concerned parties, and from stakeholders on the problems that we have in this current presentation, the bill as presented.
Hold on.
Questions and comments. The
honourable member for Montbruno-Lacadie. Madam Speaker, I heard the member's speech and I'm happy to hear his remarks. But here's what I would like. I would like him to explain why his party is hesitating to support a bill which will protect Canadian families, hospitals, and banks against cyber attacks. Thank you.
Richmond Centre Marple.
Madam Chair, we are not hesitant to support a bill that will really protect Canadians. But the problem is that this bill is very narrow in scope and also flawed in giving the ministers too much power. And there's no balance between rights and protection. So, Madam Chair, if this bill is being amended according to what we suggest, we would like to see this being discussed further. But in the form as it's right now, we cannot support this bill.
Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for the excellent speech. I note that in 2021, the Liberal Party said they were going to combat authoritarianism worldwide, and so I remark with horror, I suppose, the authoritarianism that I detect in this document that they are proposing to get through this House after the strenuous objections of the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. And I just wonder if he had any reflections on either the authoritarianism in this bill or the hypocrisy that such authoritarianism implies. Thank you.
A very brief answer from the Honourable Member for Richmond Centre Marpole.
Madam Chair, once again, as I've already pointed out, this bill is not really protecting Canadians. It's only giving the government and the ministers more power to intrude into the privacy of average Canadians. And it's the secrecy clause in this proposed bill that's being problematic. So once again, we've reflected on this many times through the Public Safety and National Security Committee. And I'm sure that we'll hear more presentations and discussions if this goes through the committee again.